Buddy. How are you? Awesome, thank you. Fire away. Who's up?
I'll go. What, if anything, did you know about Drew before you got here? Because obviously, these guys have known him for a long time.
You know, before I got here, I didn't know a ton. You know, I think probably like a lot of coaches, you're really immersed in the program that you're currently working at, and you know, whatever you see on Sports Center or the highlights around the country. But when as the opportunity arose, you could see the potential, right? When you just watch his film, like some of the things I've talked about before, his wittiness, you know, his decision making, those kind of things are really hard to coach. And they're very, very evident when you watch him right away. And then to get here and acknowledge, which I've said many times before about the kind of just person he is, you know, character, but then like his want to get better and growth is really, I mean, it's next level. It's second to none that I've worked with.
How hard is it to find somebody who has those traits of understanding the game and seeing the way he does and his decision making? Those are
super hard. That's why NFL quarterbacks get paid like $1 bazillion. You know what I'm saying? And people spend a lot of money even if they haven't been proven that way. You know what I'm saying? And I don't even give you a facetious answer, but they're hard. It's rare to find. It's hard to evaluate. People have written a lot of books about evaluating the quarterback position to play at the college level and the next level. And there, as many success stories there are, there's probably 10 quote-unquote misses, however you want to define that. So those characteristics that he has, the fact that you can see them as you're coaching him and you just observe his play, is exciting.
Having played offensive line, what do you think you've kind of learned about the quarterback position from that perspective that's maybe helped you with Drew?
Well, you know, probably, I don't know that anything beyond, you know, their understanding of protections and things like that. You know what I mean? I think maybe for him, the importance of his involvement in the run game, right? And I think that's true of any quarterback, you know, making sure we're in the right play or they're controlling people off the edges, you know, things like that. I don't know that my O-line background helps with that. I think that's just good coaching, right? You know what I mean? I don't know that you had to have play O-line to do that, but certainly that would be something that we won't want to ever compromise, our ability to run the football well.
One of the things Drew said was that learning how to call plays in this system takes some time. Mm-hmm. How has he done with that? How have all the quarterbacks done with that, given that, I mean, it's kind of brand new to them?
Yep. And so coming in right away, that was one of the things I talked about. You know, we use a lot of tags. I said very pro style. You've heard me use that expression before, in the sense of, you know, we're using tags, and we're doing that because we have a lot of variations perhaps with what we're doing that are fundamentally the same but different, alignments and splits and running the same routes from all these spots. And you need to tell people how to do that. You know, you either can tell them with these tags, or you could just have them memorized when we call this play, this is what we want you to do this week.
So a tag is like a shorthand, like one word or two words?
Yeah, right. I always use it, like our vernacular is like Lego pieces.
Okay.
Right. I think I've used that expression before, right? Because someone asked me if I like Legos.
Yeah.
Big Lego guy.
Yeah, big Lego guy. But like, so that's all you're doing within a play is you're taking these Lego pieces, you're stacking up to make a play. And so once kids and people and players understand what the Lego pieces are, putting them together becomes pretty easy.
How much has coming from a Big 12 school led to having unique conversations about playing WVU in your opener?
I don't know that I've had any unique ones about them specifically coming here. That program and Coach Brown, we actually go way back when he was at Troy. We were at Buffalo. We played in a bowl game, and then we came into the league and we were at Kansas, and they were there. And so there's quite a bit of familiarity with what he's done in the past. And his staff, and I got a boatload of respect for what they do, for sure.
Is there something you can tell us about Drew with regards to the guy that we don't see off the field? Like, have you had him over to your house? Or, like, how have you kind of gotten to know Drew the person?
See, now I don't know if I could say all the things I really want to.
Go ahead.
Probably.
That's why we're here.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to think of something funny. I don't know if I can. I'm surprised, and this is maybe an age thing. It's not exclusive to Drew. Mm-hmm. I'm surprised at maybe the quarterback room in general at how they don't pick up on my movie quotes nearly as quick as they should. And I think it's starting to become a generational thing.
Are they all from the 80s?
Yeah, well, 80s, 90s, or I mean, even like things like old school, which I don't think's that old, but you got to remember that came out when, like, you know what I mean, they were born, and so they're not going to, Frank the Tank, right? You know what I mean, they're not going to do that, and they don't get that stuff as much. So I kind of have challenged those guys to up their game in that area.
Has Danny O'Brien helped to kind of bridge that gap?
He does. That's a great point. Danny is doing a fantastic job of coaching quarterback, but he's also being for me, that's exactly what it is. He's a bridge between the generational gap.
Yeah.
I know that at Kansas last year, you opened up the floor for some players to call plays. To create their own.
Well, not call plays, but
create
credit
their
with
own.
some. Yeah,
Is-
sure.
Is that something that you've done with the offense?
We've done some things, you know what I mean, but not quite to that extent yet. Probably mostly because of where we've been at in fall camp. Do you know what I mean? And maybe there's some newness to it. But specifically, since we've talked a lot about the quarterback room here, that's a group. And I've said this all along, the communication and dialogue with those people is really important.
Is that something that was used last year, where you used a player's play?
Oh, a ton, yeah, for sure.
How much?
Oh, I don't know. I can't give you an exact number. I think they came in. I had a notebook full. But there were some. They had some good ideas. You know what I mean? They had to stay within like the framework of things that we would do. If they come out too far, let's do like a couple. Like we had an old lineman's like, give me a snap. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, we're not going to do that. And then I found out he could actually throw the football really well. His name is Dominic Cooney. He's with the Niners now, by the way.
Is there an element of your offense that was evolved to contend with some Big 12 defenses in terms of three safeties, a lot of soft coverages and things we see in the Big 12, and that seems to be kind of spreading around college football in some aspects? Is there anything like that you have seen and done to kind of attack those styles of defense?
Yeah, I think when you ask that question, I think if you're trying as a program, if you're trying to take the next step, whatever the next step might be for your program, you're going to evaluate the teams that you feel like you need to beat, or to your point, maybe is there a certain front or structure like you talked about, three safety defenses that multiple teams are running in the league, that you need to make sure that you have a really good schematic understanding of or a way to attack it. Which coming here, that was the first step, right? You know what I mean? Worrying about our players, and then what does the Big Ten look like in terms of defense? And it's always evolving week to week, you know what I mean? Player to player, team to team, what you're doing. So I challenge our guys this, and I don't want to skirt your question, but I tell our guys, if we just worry about ourselves and what we're doing offensively and how we're executing, we have enough things that we could grow or shrink any packages to attack any kind of defense.
Coach Andy, go ahead.
We've heard a lot about Trey Wallace this camp. What do you think he's done to really separate himself from the pack?
I think that when you talk about an individual's ability to separate themselves, maybe within a position group, you look for things being done consistently. And, we talk in this program about being consistently good is better than occasionally great. And he's shown to be consistently good, right, in what we're doing. So that is what you observe. You can see the guy make a play, and then you see him make two more plays, and then you see the next day he does it again, right? So it's not like just one play a day. It might not be just some super, ESPN deal. It might just be consistently doing what we're asking guys to do, execution.
Coach
talk
Julian
about
Fleming
getting
looked.
players.
How Julian's look really good. Yep, he's another guy who's been really, I think, especially this back half of fall camp, as his consistency has really, really arose. You know what I mean? I think in his mind, if you were to ask him, I bet he would say, gosh, I started kind of slow. I think he had probably a few plays that he wished he had back, but then really in this back half, he's been done a great job.
When you talk about players, the best players getting the ball, with Trey, do you view him as like a number one option? Like how exactly do you see him in this offense?
Well, when you say that, you're asking to make comparisons to other receivers or other skill players, which I wouldn't do. I would tell you, I don't think so much within a position about, hey, he's a number one of this or that. Not to minimize what he's done and the kind of player he is. I look at it more of like, okay, what does Trey do better than everybody? Maybe what route? Maybe it's blocking. Maybe whatever it is. And I look at that in every position. And then we say, let's put them in position to do that. Because you might say, this is the number one blank at this position. This is the number one guy. You might say, Ty Warren's the number one guy. But if we have a tight end that can do something better than Ty, but that's just that one little thing he does, we should put him on the field to do that thing. Do you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? So it's not just he's clearly better at everything. Sometimes that's the case. But really it goes into like the individual capabilities of things we're asking him to do.
Coach,
Well,
buy into the notion.
we've kind of beaten it over the head in terms of, from our perspective, getting the ball in the hands of the best playmakers. But do you ever think of how that works, kind of reverse engineering it? When you have guys like K-Tron and Nick, not necessarily getting the ball, but having those weapons out there, how much does that make everybody else better? You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, like I think at the end of the day, you want to put your best players on the football field. So any time that one of them is on the sideline, what does that mean?
Right.
You have to be intentional about that. But again, it's not just the individual player, it's what the player is doing. Because Nick and Katron, as good as they are and as diverse as they're training themselves, they probably aren't going to be as good as our tight ends are at maybe blocking a C-gap, right? Now, they could do that sometimes, and they could do some things with it. So you see what I'm saying? So, like, it's about maybe what we're asking to do within it, right? Although both those guys do a fantastic job of blocking and pass protection, things like that, you have to look at everything that you're asking that player to do in the field.
Coach, is week one harder to prepare for, not having film from the previous weeks, maybe having to go back to last year or the year before, or, going to spring ball, or?
It can be. Like I think I stated earlier about knowing, those coaches in that program for a while. It's been like literally, I can't remember the last time, how many years ago it was when we played them in a bowl game. I mean, this is probably our 5th or 6th time playing against each other. And again, a ton of respect for them. And so there can be challenges when you're playing a week one opponent. But I would flip the script on you and say, is that advantage for them or for us? Right? Like I always tell people, we're going to be proactive in our mindset about what we got to do to move the ball, not react as much to what someone else is going to do.